Hi, my name is Steve Gonzowski, and I will be your instructor for Intro to Digital Media for the fall of 2022. This video is to get you started in the class. Simply watch this video, take notes. It's a good idea to have a notebook or a section of a notebook for each different class that you might be taking, especially if you're taking multiple classes, of course. Because we're not all the same as instructors. We don't all use Canvas the same way. So it is really smart idea just to have a way to quickly get attuned to the class that you're dealing with as you're working through the assignments and so on for the class. Anything that I don't explain thoroughly in these videos, I will explain in the upcoming welcome videos. Let's start with how to access Canvas, just in case you've never done this before. Probably the simplest way to explain this is just start at the college's website, so sccollege.edu. Let me get rid of this extra stuff here. And then right up at the top of the college's website, you will see a link for Canvas. Now, you are going to need to log in. Your login should be the same credentials that you used to sign up for the class in the first place. If you cannot log in, take care of that immediately. I have the telephone number for the student help desk right here. Once you are able to get into Canvas, expect your Canvas to look quite a bit different than mine, but somehow or way you'll see a link for the class that you're in with me. Simply click on that link and that should take you into the home page of Canvas. The home page is going to have important stuff that applies often throughout the semester and some important stuff right at the beginning. So one of them will be the Zoom invite, which will appear right here after this video that you are probably watching right now, and the college resources. Then you'll see the invite to get you into Zoom for the semester. Zoom, if you've never used it before, it's very straightforward. Just click on this link, follow any prompts that it gives you, and pretty soon you will have access to the meeting. And if you get in there right around the time of the meeting, you should see other students waiting in Zoom with you, and then I will be in just before the class and we'll get started in Zoom just like we were in a classroom. Below that, you'll see other important reminders about the class. And one other important thing is if you are not going to be going to the college library and using a college computer, Mac computer, to do the homework, and you don't have a computer or your computer is not equipped to handle the Adobe Creative Cloud, you may want to look into this loaner program quickly. The sooner the better. The links to the major pages in Canvas are found over here. So one of the things that we use a lot, especially in Art 195, is announcements. You could say that this class is an announcement-driven class. So especially for those of you who are also in my 122 class, this class is going to be different than that one. So it's important that you pay attention to the differences. So what'll happen is each week an announcement will be made available to you. You simply click on that announcement and you'll see all of the work that is due for that following week. And then we will go over what is due in the Zoom meeting each week. So for this class, it is not module driven, it is announcement driven. However, there is a orientation module which you need to complete as one of your first things for the class. So you'll go through this, you'll watch the welcome videos. There is 5 videos in here. You need to set aside enough time to watch these. Not only watch them, but kind of participate with them. You'll take notes. I will make it obvious that there is a quiz question coming up. You need to write down the answer to that quiz question. And then the final module in this series is a welcome quiz that you need to complete with an A or better, which shouldn't be hard since I give the answers away in the welcome videos. And when you do that, you'll be ready to take the quiz, and then you must complete the quiz by August 28th. Otherwise, it's like you never attended the class and you'll be dropped as a no-show from the class. Okay, so we just went over the announcements tab, the module tab, and then the only due date that you really need to pay attention to, and the only module that you have, is the orientation model, but you have the due date of August 28th in here for the welcome quiz. The other tab that you need to check at least once a week, twice a week is even better, is the grades tab. That will show you what your current grade is in the class. I go into much more detail about grades in the welcome videos. And then just to the left of all these tabs that we've been talking about up here is some of these icons here. And we will use the inbox icon to communicate with each other in this class. We will send each other emails just by simply clicking on here and then clicking here and then constructing the email. The next important item here is make sure as the class gets going that you know how and where to access comments. Now there's 3 possible ways that you will get comments from me on your assignments. Let me just kind of roughly show you what that'll look like. As you're going through each week in the class, and I'm just going to jump way ahead here just so I can show you about the comments. When you're getting ready to turn in a project or any assignment that's due for the week, you'll have either a button up here or down here to make available submitting the files or whatever is necessary to complete the assignment. When you do that, you'll see a comments box. You could leave me comments in there, and you can do so if it's nothing that you need a reply on. Like if you just want to make me aware of something on your project, or maybe specific feedback that's not needed until I actually go in and grade the comment, grade the assignment, because that is the only time I see those comments. Otherwise, if you want to communicate with me, again, it's the email box. Now, once the project has been graded, you can click on the assignment again, and it'll take you back into the assignment, and then you will see your grade, and you will see any comments that I might have made. Now, again, if you have questions about the comments, don't just simply write another comment, because I won't see it after that point. What you need to do, copy the comment, go into the inbox icon, generate an email, paste the comment in there, and then ask me your question. Now, you'll probably receive a comment on most things unless you got a perfect score. Then there's not much I can comment on. Maybe, way to go. So that's one way, inside that comments box. The other way, near the comment box, you might see a little playhead arrow, and that will mean that I left you audio comments, because sometimes if it's a more detailed comment that I need to make, it's easier for you to understand, and a lot of times, well, I guess just easier for me to get across my comments if I leave them as audio comments. And then the third and final way that you will see comments, and that you should always check, is most assignments and projects have a rubric for them. And a rubric looks something like this right here. And when I'm grading the work, there's a little button for me that I can leave feedback. So let me just show you a little example of that. But first, let me start by saying you should become very familiar with the rubric before you turn the project in, because the rubrics are really a glance into my mind as to how I'm going to be grading your assignment. So read all of this stuff. Read what is above average in the rubric all the way over to the left, and then look at ways that you might lose points, and then make sure that you don't lose points. And once you've turned in the assignment and you've received a grade on it, you can go back into the rubric, and you should, especially if you lost any points. And if it wasn't already specified in the regular comments or the audio comment, if applicable, then what you would see is after each one of these things, you would see a little blank spot here with, well, it won't be blank, it would be full of writing. if I made a comment about that particular, say about this thing or about that thing, you would see the info there, or at least the points that make up that arrive at your score for the particular assignment. All right, moving on. We meet in Zoom. The class content is contained inside of a Canvas. In Zoom, when you enter Zoom, please mute your microphone. You'll see if you hover your mouse around the bottom of Zoom, you'll see some little buttons that come up, and it's pretty intuitive. You'll see one that will show whether your microphone's on or off. You only need it on if you're about to ask a question, or if you're called on to speak in the class. You have an option in Zoom to show yourself live via video in there. And whenever we're engaging in stuff together, I really would prefer that you do that. If you cannot, because sometimes maybe your computer speed isn't high enough to show yourself as well as to be able to talk and all that in Zoom, a still photo of yourself would be my second choice. Please don't ever put the Zoom camera on like a bobblehead or something that's moving around. That's very distracting. Please don't walk around or drive around when you're in Zoom, because that's very distracting. Our eyes are like magnets to motion. So just don't be distracting in Zoom with visual distractions or audio distractions by not having your microphone muted. Okay, so you're taking an online class essentially that has one live component to it, being that once a week Zoom meeting. So in any college class, discipline and time management are your keys to success, but even more so do you need discipline in an online class. So just to give you an example, this class met for 5 hours normally. Then we did it as a hybrid, some semesters where it would meet 3 hours, and then you were responsible for 2 hours of video instruction. That's just to make up for the instruction in the class. Then you also had your homework. So here you basically have the Zoom meeting and then a lot of other online instruction, and then you have to make a lot of time for homework. So remember that the average, and this is average for college classes, is a 3-unit class has 9 hours of homework per week. So make that commitment. Get some time management software or app for your cell phone and use it. If you get stuck with anything that's preventing you from going forward from the class, make sure you know how to access all the different areas. So one way you can do is you can go to the student tab here on the college's website, and you'll see a whole bunch of different things that you can get further information on. And then also, if you're already in Canvas, you can click on a lot of these different areas here to bring you instantly to different student help sections. Let's talk about some of the things that you need for this class, and I will go into more detail about thumb drives and things like that in the welcome videos. But you want to get the textbook right away, and let me just show you where to find that information on the syllabus, which is another tab that you'll be using here in Canvas. And if we scroll down here, you can see here is the textbook, and I have a link right to their website. So you can either get this at the bookstore or Amazon, or you can buy it right directly from the publisher, which is called Against the Clock. I'm going to click on the website so you can see a little bit more here. And right, which one are you here? Right here. This is the book we use. Let me just go to bookstore and go to, it's called Graphic Design. It's not really a graphic design book per se, but it is a book that has the 3 big print-based programs that this class covers, which is Illustrator, InDesign, and Photoshop. I want to just mention a little bit about the book, because the first couple semesters I really wondered, was this the best way to go? And I got a lot of feedback from the students, and I wondered, I think it's so much easier to learn from video, but most of the students told me that if they had a choice between this book and like having to get a subscription to LinkedIn Learning, they would prefer the book, because LinkedIn Learning is so vast in all the different videos that it covers for Photoshop and what this for Photoshop, for example. But what this book does that's so good is it narrows the focus down a little bit per chapter, and then it shows you how to use, for example, InDesign and Photoshop, or InDesign and Illustrator together. So you get a much better overview than just trying to become an expert on one thing first and then move on to the other. But what's really nice is this website has started implementing videos. So they have a tour here of the books in general. And then once you get the book, you'll be able to go onto this website and see even more resources, including more videos. Sometimes I get the question, can I use a slightly older version of the textbook? The answer is yes. Just be aware of two things. One, you may miss out on the newest feature in Illustrator or Photoshop. Not a big deal. Just maybe talk to someone else who's in the class that has a newer version, and talk about maybe anything that they might have learned that you didn't, and you can always just Google the subject, find a video on it. But the other thing is, you need access to the website no matter what. So if you have an old textbook, you won't have the valid code in the back of the textbook to get you on the website. You can still do it, though. You just have to pay a certain amount. And I think the last time a student told me it was around like 16 or 20 bucks. And then you can still get the fonts that you need and all of the downloads to complete the assignments. Okay, and for every class you take, you definitely want something to write with and on for notes, and then also if you're, maybe ideas for some of the things that you're working on. You need a way to back up your files. Don't just rely on your computer, or a library computer is even a worse idea. So at a minimum, you want thumb drives, but as I talk about in the welcome videos, they go bad, so cloud-based storage is usually your best way to go. The college has a very good deal for students in this class to get the Creative Cloud installed on their computer. Sometimes it's a very good price per semester, but if I understand correctly, right now it's absolutely free for you. I'm going to have a video that follows this one on the homepage that's going to talk about some of the things to be aware of when you're following the college's instructions on getting the Creative Cloud installed on your program, on your computer. And then just know that for this particular class, you need Illustrator, Photoshop, and InDesign. And then let me just show you the projects to expect for this class. Again, if we go to Canvas and go to the syllabus, near the end of the syllabus, you'll see a section that says probable project. And never had a semester that we didn't do all of these, but you never know. That's why I put probable in front of it. So you'll do a project that's kind of like my doing, or through me watching instructional videos, called the Celebrity Adobe Illustrator project. I'll show you an example of that in just a second. And then in the textbook, there's 10 chapters, each one that has an overall assignment to it. You will do everything but chapter 2. So we start with chapter 1 of the textbook, then we jump ahead to chapter 3, because chapter 2 covers the same things that we cover with this class project, but you'll go 3 all the way through 10 of the textbook, and then we have another class type project, which is a magazine cover, texture in parentheses, because that's the name of the game on that project. So let me show you both of these projects here, and you're welcome to go ahead and take a look at this as well. If you go to the website that I mentioned on the home page, which is profsteveg.wordpress.com, and you go to student work and you go intro digital media, let's start with the first one, which is the Celebrity Illustrator project. You can see what you'll do is you'll pick a celebrity, or in this case, a bunch of them, and you will make a stylistic version of them by following along with a lot of instructional videos that I provide to you. And then the other project is also located under student work, digital media, and that's a magazine cover. And the name of the game with this one is you're going to harvest a bunch of texture. You learn how to use masking on Photoshop so that you can mask that texture and mask yourself away from the background and apply the texture and make yourself look very odd and or unworldly. Our class officially begins with the Zoom meeting on August 24th, but Canvas is now published and available for our class. I highly suggest that even before our meeting, you go in and do the orientation all the way through completing the welcome quiz. Then that way you can just focus on what comes next, which is mainly learning the software. Otherwise, at an absolute minimum, you want to start the orientation quiz within a day or two of class, and you are required to complete the welcome quiz with a grade of A or better by August 28th. If you've had me as an instructor before, don't assume that any of my quizzes will be the same as last semester. And when you are taking the quiz, such as the welcome quiz, it is a fill-in-the-blank question that's graded by the computer. So if you put in an equivalent answer or you misspell the answer, you will be marked wrong. But again, you will watch me actually give you the answer right in the video and you'll see the spelling of it. I will probably have either made some mistakes in setting up this class or Canvas will throw something at us that looks oddball. So just know this. What you're ultimately responsible for in this class is right now what I told you, the welcome quiz, and then after that, everything that we talk about in announcements. If you see something that seems very odd, like why is this due on such an odd date, or it seems like it's already past due or something like that, send me an email right away. Click on the inbox icon that we talked about in Canvas and just say, hey Steve, this looks a little bit odd. Is this really due? That'll give me a chance to go in and fix it and let everybody else know that, oops, there was a mistake there. Let's see here. You don't have to worry about paper samples in this class. Yeah, everything else we've talked about. So I look forward to a good semester with you. See you on Wednesday, the 24th at 3:30 p.m. in Zoom.